Hello gang, and welcome again to another YouTube video. For today's video, I'll be making some tips and tricks for a certain game on Roblox called Violence District. You might be wondering why I'm making a tips and tricks video for a slasher game, considering that I mostly posted about doors, pressure, or evade content in the past, and yeah, lots of random Roblox game videos. And the answer to that is that I used to play this one slasher game on Roblox called Escape the Darkness. It's basically like Dead by Daylight, and it's one of the most epic slasher games back then until it shut down last August of 2023. I used to make a lot of tips and tricks videos about it and play with my followers, and after it shut down, I resorted to playing other slasher games like Daybreak, Trepidation, Flee the Facility, and a little bit of Forsaken. Although the developers of ETD actually announced back then that they will be making a new game called Dark Rising, and to be honest, I'm still waiting for that game to come out. So yeah, that is basically the lore why I've got addicted into playing Violence District or slasher games in general. So for this video, I'll also be doing some tips and tricks, and we'll be focusing right now on survivors, since most of the time you'll be a survivor in this game. So yeah, without further ado, let's start with the first tip. Always do generators. If you're a survivor, then your first priority is to always do generators. Why? Because it's the only way to escape. The number of generators that you need to complete is located at the lower left of your screen. Once all have been done, you can now proceed to the exit gates and escape. The exit gates, however, will take some time to open, so yeah, be careful if the killer is near. Rescuing and healing your teammates. You'll know if a teammate is injured, downed, or hooked by looking at the bottom left of your screen. If their icon has a blood splatter on it, that means they're injured. If they have a yellow bar icon and you can see their aura around the map, that means they're downed. If the yellow bar is still there but you can't see their aura, that means they're being carried by the killer. If they have a red bar below their icon, that means they're hooked. Now, if you're going to rescue a hooked survivor, you have to make sure that the coast is clear first. Otherwise, the killer might just target the one you have rescued. Plus, you're also risking yourself as well. You can also get hooked 3 times in this game, and you'll know this by checking the white line icon beside the survivor's icon. Once you've successfully rescued the survivor, the next thing you want to do is find a safe place to heal them. You can only heal a survivor if they're crouching or when they're not possessing any debuffs like the anti-heal from the High Karma perk or from Myers' Evil Grasp passive ability. If your teammate is just new, tell them to crouch down so you can heal them, or just spam crouch to let them know if you're too lazy to chat in-game. Another tip, the killer can hear the audio of you healing someone, so if the killer is near, especially if you're against a pro killer, stop healing so the killer won't have an easy time finding you and the survivor you're healing. Being downed, recovering, and getting hooked. If you're downed, it's best to stay still and recover. This is very important, especially if the killer is a slugging type of player, meaning they're just letting the survivors be downed and crawl on the floor, hoping to bait other survivors to go and pick them up and target them. Recovering when you're down makes other survivors easy to pick you up, especially when your recovery bar reaches its maximum. Sometimes, you can crawl or get down at a nearby pallet, so when you're carried, a survivor can make a pallet drop to stun them, making the killer drop you. The bar below your icon whenever you're down or hooked is your bleed out timer. Once that reaches 0, you'll be eliminated from the match. If you're hooked, it's best to stay still and wait for a survivor to come and help you. Don't risk the 4% of you getting yourself unhooked unless you notice that all of your teammates are downed and hooked and no one is using an adrenaline or the High Karma perk to make final save clutches. There's also an anti-camping mechanic in this game that makes your chances to unhooking yourself by 100% if the bar fills up. Vaulting and using pallets. Pallets are these wooden vertical things that you'll see around the map. Pallets are a vital resource in the game, so you don't want to use them when not needed to. Pallets are used to stun the killer if they're within the proximity of the pallet. You also don't need to use a pallet immediately or camp at it when the killer is chasing you. Sometimes, if you have enough distance, you can loop around the pallet a few times before dropping it. In Dead by Daylight, I believe this is called greeting a pallet. Vaults are also another useful resource in the game. You can use vaults in order to stall the killer when you're in chase. You can only use the vault 3 times during a chase, and after that, it's going to be blocked for a few seconds. However, the killer can still use the block vault, so you have to get away before the killer catches up to you. There are also 3 ways to vault in this game: a slow vault, a medium vault, and a fast vault. It's mostly recommended to do a slow vault or a medium vault when you're not being chased by the killer, since doing a fast vault can trigger certain killer perks like Enhanced Senses, which can reveal your aura for 5 seconds at max level. If you want to do a fast vault, all you need to do is run towards straight at a vault. You need to be facing the vault and running towards it in order to do a fast vault. Otherwise, you'll be doing a medium vault instead. Also, for some reason, it's easier to do a fast vault at pallets rather than on windows, so you can use this to your advantage, especially if you're looping using a god pallet, aka pallets that can't be mind gained by a killer. Looping. Looping is one of the skills that you need to learn as a survivor. Looping is basically using the resources that you can see around the map, such as vaults, in order to stall the killer. Now, there's a proper way when you're looping. Make sure that you're hugging the wall or taking the shortest route possible whenever you're doing it, or connecting vault to vault to make the killer harder to catch up to you. Hugging the wall or taking the shortest route when you're looping a killer is very important, since it'll make you gain those extra micro amount of distances away from the killer. It's also important to note that you should be looking at the killer from time to time instead of just facing forward, since there are situations where a good killer can cut you off. There are also some situations where you need to wait patiently before continuing your loop, especially if you're looping at locations where there are check spots. Perks and items. If you're unsure what perks to buy, I highly recommend you read all of the perks descriptions first before buying anything. Find perks that'll suit your playstyle. If you're a beginner, I highly recommend you to get Grab My Hand, Time to Grow Up, and Call Me Back as your first perks. These perks will make you have a slight advantage against the killer because of the movement speed, aura reading, and healing boost whenever you rescue a teammate from a hook. Items, on the other hand, are useful equipment to aid you in your survival. If you're just new, I highly suggest you to get the bandage, adrenaline, motion tracker, or the gate first. These items takes little to no skill to use, so it's great if you're just starting. Just make sure to read the item's description first before buying them, so you'll be able to use it in its maximum potential. Communication. If you want to win as a team, then proper communication is a must. Just make sure to use team chat by typing /t or /team before chatting, so the killer won't know what you guys are doing. You can communicate about which gen you are fixing, the location of the killer, the gates that are opened, and more. But yeah, don't overdo it, as chatting more in-game might result in a negative feedback rather than a positive one. Before escaping, if all generators are fixed, make sure to always check the interface at the bottom left first if your teammates are all healthy or have escaped when their icons turn faded or gray. If not, then it's best to wait them to escape first. Sometimes, there are circumstances where your teammates gets hooked when the exit gates are opened, and this is the reason why you need to wait them first in order to do final rescue clutches. When the exit gates are opened, survivors will only have 2 minutes to escape. There are some situations where you can 99 a gate or 99% the exit doors if you notice that your team needs more time before they can escape, since once you've opened the exit gates, the remaining amount of time will be reduced to 2 minutes. But most of the time, you'll want to open the exit gates as soon as it's activated, since doing 99% on it will sometimes make your team be put in a disadvantage, since the door will still have an animation before it opens. Plus, you'll need to travel a short amount of distance before actually escaping. But yeah, if you don't have any backup plans, such as use of perks for the endgame, and you're injured while another survivor is hooked, and you already noticed that the time is already scarce, it's best to save yourself rather than risking to save the hooked survivor. All I can say is trust your gut, skills, and instincts if you're ever going to pull last-minute clutches. Taking protection hits. If one of your teammates is injured and you notice that it's already the endgame, try to protect them or take protection hits so they'll be able to escape successfully. You can do this by going behind their back and intentionally blocking the killer's attack for your teammate. Additional tips and tricks. Do the middle generators first. In these types of slasher games where generators are the primary key in order to win the game, you'll need to mostly want to finish the middle generators first around the map. Why? Because if the remaining 1 or 2 generators are close to each other, you'll mostly risk yourselves being gen-locked. Gen-lock means that all generators are near to each other where the killer can basically roam around them, making it almost impossible to get one of them finished. And yeah, it's worse if the killer is using a gen-regressing perk such as Crackdown. Mind gaming, juking, and hiding. In some situations, you can study a killer's behavior by how they respond when they're near to pallets or when they're about to vault. Some killers will try to avoid the pallet stun, aka respecting a pallet, and this is a good information to know in order to save pallets, especially god pallets. God pallets are basically pallets that'll make the killer impossible to mind game you or catch you if it's not destroyed when dropped. Sometimes you can also juke killers, aka ankle breakers, by doing 360s, 180s, or moving side to side when a killer is about to reach you and hit you. Juking is one of the hardest things to do in game, so only do it as a last resort. Most of the times, you'll want to use vaults or pallets when being chased by the killer. You can also take advantage a map's environment like bushes or cheesy spots if you want to hide from the killer. Just make sure your blood splatters on the floor are not trackable. Skill checks. When doing generators, you'll notice a white small bar when facing a skill check. These white bars are great skill checks when you hit them, and this will make the generator progress faster. You'll also face skill checks whenever you're healing other survivors. Make sure to hit those skill checks, otherwise, you'll risk yourself being detected by the killer. Map knowledge. For me, map knowledge has got to be the most useful tool when playing slasher games, especially if the game consists of vaults, since if you're fully aware of a map's layout, then you'll always know where to run to whenever you're being chased or whenever you're looping. To be honest, map knowledge is the reason why new players are having a hard time surviving or being a killer in the game, since they don't know where to go. And this is worse when a slasher game consists of stamina management, killer speed buffs, and more. So yeah, if you're playing a slasher game or any type of game, your best bet into winning is getting to know the map's layout first for your advantage. I don't know, maybe you could be a cartographer and draw the game's different map layouts or memorize them if you're too lazy to draw. Always look around you when doing a gen or traveling around the map. This is important since there are certain killer perks like Shadow Trace that lets a killer sneak up on you. There are also certain killers like Myers and the Rat Mask of the Masked who can ambush you while you're doing a gen or traveling around the map if you're not careful enough. And yeah, for the most important tip of all is to have fun. So yeah, that's all for this tips and tricks video, and I hope that you've learned something new about Violence District or playing slasher games in general as a survivor. I'll also be making a slasher tips and tricks video, so yeah, I'll see you guys in the next one.